Why did I buy Uber? Right here is why I bought Uber. These are the two cars that I've got approximately $160,000 invested in. And since I bought them over time, I actually have close to $200,000 invested in them. And they sit in my garage and they depreciate. I guess my point is, what if rather than put that $200,000, I had had the opportunity to invest that $200,000 in something like Amazon or Facebook or Apple, and over those years they would not have depreciated but appreciated. But no, this is what I own for my $200,000. So today I bought Uber, and I'm going to explain to you why. So what brought me to the conclusion to analyze my purchase of the Porsche and BMW and come to the conclusion that I made a tremendous mistake? Now, I say that, but I didn't have the options that you have today. Two things happened. One, this weekend I watched the first episode of a Prime Video upload, and in that video they show a man in the future in a autonomous automobile, and it really brightened my face because I had read a book about autonomous automobiles, and this was really the first vision that I had of what they could really be.
You are 19 minutes from your destination.
Let's go.
The other thing that took place right at the same time was I got the hard copy of this book. I had been listening to it on Audible, and this book is probably going to be as meaningful to me as this book and this book. If you don't have these three books in your library, and if you don't have them as a resource to go back to, you don't belong in investing, at least not for the future. The future is faster than you think. In the first 16 pages of this book, the first chapter is entitled Convergence, and the first section is about flying cars. And he goes into how the Jetsons had promised us flying cars, and they had promised us flying cars by 2020, and we don't have flying cars. But the fact is we do. They are on the horizon, and they are on the horizon because of the convergence of technology. The technology is all coming together such that within the next 4 years, my day, let's assume that my YouTube channel goes crazy, and I am invited to go to San Francisco to speak to a large group of people about my thoughts on investing. I would get my smartphone, say to Uber, I need a car, and an autonomous automobile would appear here at my house, and it would take me to probably what we'll call a launch port over at Century Plaza, and I'll get into a flying car that is again an Uber product, and I'll fly to Atlanta and get on an airplane and travel to Los Angeles, and in Los Angeles again I'll call an Uber. I'll go to the event. I'll probably walk to my hotel, and then just do the whole thing in reverse. And in that, I have no use for the ownership of an automobile. And as I said, out in the driveway, those automobiles, that Porsche cost me $105,000. That BMW cost me $62,000. I paid for them over time. Rough calculation, I've got somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 invested in them. I figure they cost me somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,500 a year to own, between the license plate, the gasoline, the insurance, and the maintenance. So I've just poured a ton of money into those two automobiles that, again, I had to have an automobile because of the time frame that I lived in. But that time frame is changing. And I'm saying to you, if you're a 20-year-old or you're a 30-year-old, and even if you're a 40-year-old, you need to change your mindset to, I don't need those automobiles. I will not need those automobiles within the next 3 years. And I need to not only set up my life to not have those automobiles, but I also need to read the first 16 pages of this book and come to the realization that things are changing. Things are changing dramatically, and Uber's going to be in front of it. Now, I would not have bought Uber prior to reading this book and seeing an interview with the CEO of Uber. And I want to share bits and pieces of that with you so that you feel the same way I do. I came away saying, and I should share with you that the Uber stock sits in a trust account that my wife and I have set up for our grandchildren. I don't see myself getting the big payoff from Uber. I invested, I bought 100 shares at, I think it's somewhere around $2,800, and I believe that those 100 shares will probably be worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $28,000 within the next 6 to 7 years. They're not there for me, they're there for my grandchildren. And so that explains that a little bit. But let's talk about and give you some insight of what Uber is all about. First of all, we all know how we use Uber now. It is a supplement to the vehicle that we own. I use Uber when Nita and I are traveling, and rather than pay a whole bunch for parking our car in a facility at the airport, or troubling a friend to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and get us to the airport, we use Uber. And it's a $20 ride to the airport and a $20 ride back. My question then to the CEO, first question would be, what is Uber's next big idea?
We've got ride sharing, we've got food delivery, we've got micromobility, we've got autonomous, we've got freight, revolutionizing how truckers move around and how shippers ship product all over the world. We've got Elevate as well. We have an enormous number of big ideas, and now it's execution time.
Okay, so then you're not only going to have automobiles delivering people, but delivering food, delivering merchandise. As AI takes over my pantry and my concierge on my phone that knows everything about me is going to notify Uber that I need groceries picked up, and you'll dispatch the groceries, and basically my need for a vehicle will diminish dramatically. How do you see Uber changing in the future?
All over. What's unique about our business is that we're a combination of the digital and the physical, and the two coming together in unique ways. So we have very interesting, for example, machine learning algorithms that are looking at supply and demand, live supply and demand in a city, what riders are looking for and where they're located, and then giving our drivers guidelines as to where to go in order to meet that demand. This matching of supply and demand in a dynamic way, and the pricing that we have, is something that's unique. We continue to innovate there, and then we innovate in very, very different spots such as Elevate as to how we can bring together different modes of transportation and tie them together, walking, driving, to helicopter, for example, now to JFK.
Okay, beyond Uber then, what does the future of transportation look like?
We think we can bring it together. I believe that we can have that singular app where every morning when you wake up, any way that you want to get from point A to point B, we can give you the information that is relevant to you with live pricing, inventory, et cetera. We now have mass transit in the app. So we're going to tell you mass transit, you can take a subway, you can take a bus, you can take an Uber, you can take a pool, and if it's a long enough trip, you can take an Elevate as well. We are uniquely positioned as a company to have all that information together, and we can do the same thing for transportation, we can do the same thing for local commerce, and with Eats, restaurants are only the beginning, and we can do the same thing for logistics. No other company in the world is positioned to solve local transportation, local commerce, and logistics as well, and I think we're in a spearhead position to do so.
I realize that, at least the information I have, is that Uber is not profitable and will not be profitable until they get rid of the driver and we get to autonomous automobiles. When do you see profitability?
I think we can get to profitability before self-driving, for example, becomes the majority of trips. But I think that if you look forward and if you want to bring safety on the road, increase it, because the number of people who die in accidents in the U.S. and abroad, there's just no reason to have that many people hurt. Most accidents are caused by human error. And we can avoid that. We can avoid that with computers and technologies. And at the same time, we can take the cost per mile down pretty significantly. So fast forward 10, 15 years from now, autonomous is going to be a huge part of how people get around. It'll be cheaper. It'll be safer. Why not invest now to make that happen?
Okay, that brings you up to speed on why I bought Uber and how I bought Uber. Again, it is a future investment. I'm not looking to, because I recognize that Uber is going to get hammered hard. There isn't a lot of business travel going on right now. There isn't a lot of people getting Uber to go out to a restaurant or a bar because they know they're going to get inebriated and they want a drive home. So Uber's mainstay of business is not there. Now, I do see them probably benefiting through their Eats program. There are some restaurants that Nita and I love, but I'm not going to be comfortable going to them anytime real soon, so I might have the opportunity to order 2 meals from them and then have Uber pick them up and deliver them to me. I believe this will be a benefit from the virus that Uber will benefit from. But I think the reality is the virus is going to be cured. Our phone is going to become our dock. The convergence of technology is such that our life is going to change dramatically. And one of the major forms of the change in our life is going to be transportation. This is going to decimate the automobile industry. You need to be aware of that. I don't care what kind of a car I'm in when Uber picks me up. I do not need a Porsche Carrera S4 or whatever it is because it has 4-wheel drive. I don't need that vehicle, but we are in a dilemma what we're going to do with it because our grandkids would like to have it. So that's my take, and that's why I bought Uber. I'm going to do videos on like this every time I buy a stock so that you understand. And if you want to get a good firm understanding, go down into the description, find this book. And if you don't already have The Accidental Superpower and The Big Nine, these should be on your shelf, and this should be your reference library as far as your investments in the future.